We are live. It is the No Name Cinema Society, the Indie Spotlight, episode 29.2. And we just finished talking about Popstar, and now it's time to talk about Indie Spotlight of the night. Hello, my name is Jonathan Betzler. Sexy Pirate Night continues. If you didn't see the previous episode, you're watching this months later. I had an eye incident yesterday, but we must go on with the show. Here's my little hospital band. I was in the ER on Sunday. But we move forward, and we're here to talk, do Indie Spotlight, which tonight is Lars Von Trier's Melancholia. Before we get to the film itself, let me introduce my colleagues. Who's first? Let's go with the recently handsome Jay Money. How are you, sir?
Recently? Wow. Yeah, I've had a lot of work done. That's a lot coming from a guy with an eye patch.
Well played, sir. And of course, Drunk Davies are my other co-host. How you doing, Davey?
Well, it's been hard work keeping up, being the looks of the program. So I'm glad Jay Money's joining me.
He's stepping it up. I don't know. This is Sexy Pirate Night, so like it might be coming my way now.
You look good. You look good.
Thank you. Thank you. Quick recap of what we got going on this evening so far. First, we just talked about Popstar, as you know, and you can see that episode 29.1 if this is, you're not watching this live with us. And now we're about to talk about Melancholia, and then later on this evening at about 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, we got our classic of the night, which is a 1948 film called Johnny Belinda. And then at the end of the evening, we have what's called our Sound Off. It is a free-form segment where Diatribe, that is Davy's Diatribe, where he just like whines about something or other. I've got a top 5, which is tonight the top 5 Best Actress winners ever, the Best Actress Oscar winners, and we talk about some other films that have come up over the course of different broadcasts. We reopen some old cans of worms, as it were. Now it's trivia time, and we've got it's the tidbit alert, which I know you guys are is a new little thing that we've got going on here. How do you like the tidbit alert, Davey?
Yeah, look at that. You guys.
So this is to answer the trivia questions because we didn't reveal what the Indie Spotlight is until the day before. On the trivia on the last broadcast in episode 28.2 was I guess it was a film that was about an artsy film about the apocalypse. So that's obviously Melancholia. And the other tidbit was on Facebook and Twitter. The question was a director that started a cinematic movement in the mid-'90s, which is, of course, along with Thomas Vinterberg, Lars Von Trier was one of the founders of the Dogma 95 movement, which really rose to fame in '96 with Breaking the Waves, and maybe that movement will come up, but it was very in vogue for a good 4 to 5 years. Before not being so anymore. Maybe 6 years. Maybe Dancer in the Dark was the last one that it was really, talked about. But anyway, so those are the Facebook and Twitter questions. And I'm asking you as an audience to bear with me as I try and manage through this eye patch thing, because I feel like I'm literally doing this with one eye and it's not even my good eye. Melancholia is the movie of the night, and what I can tell you about, I don't exactly know how to explain it, but I can tell you this is Justine and Claire. They are two sisters of vastly different temperaments who are trying to cope with the possibility of a new planet whose orbit is going to bring it close to Earth. There is even some fear among some that it's going to collide with Earth, and that is the basic plot of Melancholia, but I would argue that it's not a plot-driven movie. I would also tell you that it is one of, as you know, the last several Indie Spotlights have been films that I've been recommending. So this is one of my, and all the Indie Spotlights we've done in 2016 so far have been from 2011. And as we've been going along, like I started with one of my favorite indies from 2011, and we're going sort of down. So it's still a film I enjoy a lot, but it's a film that I might have some quibbles with here and there, and we can get into that a little further. I mentioned this movie in episode 20.2 when we talked about Under the Skin, as this is the movie that I think Under the Skin wanted to be, or maybe this is the movie I wanted Under the Skin to be like, perhaps. And I think that it is It's a fascinating movie. Like some of David Lynch's work, it's more about the evocativeness than the story. Like any great abstract art, it has a narrative, but its narrative is not necessarily its focus. It's extremely emotional for me with striking imagery, and I think some outstanding sound design, which are the really key elements in any film, narrative or not. So from a craft point of view, and also, I think it's exceptional in what it's trying to say and accomplish in its own way. So with that said, let me start with J Money. Where are you in this, J Money? Melancholia.
Well, I don't think it'll come as a shock to anyone if I say that I really like this movie. I maybe even love this movie. This is like catnip to me, so there you go.
Excellent. And now the big question, I mean, I did have a feeling about that you were going to enjoy it, but the big question mark is where's Davy Joe going to land on it?
I like the movie a lot. I have some quibbles. But it's good. It's a very good movie.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. It is a good movie on the Davy scale. That's where it lands. The Davy scale of quality. It is good movie. Maybe the color palette wasn't exactly what he had in mind. Maybe that's the maybe that's the issues that he has with it. But we're about to find out. Let's and I have some quibbles as well. But I want to start with some of the positives, and let's start with I think. Imagery is, I think, the most important thing in this film. The thing that stays with me the most. And I use the term imagery instead of cinematography because some of the best images use heavy color correction and visual effects. The regular cinematography is fine, but it's not as noteworthy, I'd argue, as some of these other images. How would you guys respond to that?
Yeah, I think that a large part of this movie is almost like a Vogue, style spread. It's very worked over in a certain way, but it's not, cumbersome. It's just very defined. There's some very specific sort of visual and art directing choices that I personally loved. I mean, I love the look of this movie, top to bottom. I guess just briefly, it's interesting because I mean, it's kind of antithetical to Dogma 95, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that whole concept has not only been abandoned by him, but just about everybody. But absolutely, like I think he's moved on as an artist. Yeah. And I mean, like I like Dancing in the Dark quite a bit, but I mean, and I like this one too. So I mean, he's capable of multiple things, and he's grown as an artist. And I think Dogma 95 was interesting, but also limiting. So
yeah, well, that's part of it. It was really interesting for me to see him tackle the subject in this way that it has, but I'm so much more familiar with the other work that I would associate with him.
Yeah, David Joe, talk about the imagery.
I thought it was a lot of fun. It just sort of a kind of feast for the eyes. Some of the shots were really interesting, and yeah. No,
fun is not a word I would often associate with this movie. So it's interesting that you'd use that word.
I mean, I'll tell you, when I settle into a sci-fi movie like this, I do.
Sci-fi is also a phrase I would not necessarily associate with this movie. Although I see where you're coming from, but
I mean, it's 100% a sci-fi movie.
I honestly don't. I mean, it's interesting because there's definitely a lot of debate about that online.
I think it's definitely not a sci-fi movie because I don't think that's what it's about. I think there's a backdrop that's sci-fi, but I think it's about something much deeper, which we'll get to later on. So that's a segue to the next thing I want to talk about, and that is performances. There's a lot of heavy hitters in this movie, including some of our old favorites. I think J Money and I both named this young lady as one of our favorite actresses of 2015. In our Oscar preview, we both said she should have won the Oscar for 45 years. I think it was your third favorite movie of 2015, as a matter of fact, J Money.
I think so.
And between her, we got John Hurt, and we've got both Sarsgaards, Alexander and Stellan, and of course Kiefer, the Mr. Designated Survivor himself. Kiefer Sutherland's in this as well in a significant role. So there's a big supporting cast here, but I'm gonna make the point that with the exception of maybe the two sisters, and we can get to them a little bit, this is not a movie that requires three-dimensional characters, and even I'm going to argue that the two sisters aren't really three-dimensional characters either. This is a movie that is not looking for that sort of a performance from these people. Like these actors are merely really pawns in the director's endgame. And so like you're not getting what I think you expect out of normal performances. It's sort of European in that sense, like because it's an art film ultimately, you know. Davey, how do you feel about? Let's get to the two leads later. How do you feel about some of these supporting actors? Are you on point with? You see what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I think that performances across the board were stellar, and as you pointed out many times in the past, that's an indication of great direction. So I got to.
Well, I mean, like I'm actually saying that they don't feel stellar. So maybe
I mean,
performances. I think they serve the director's purpose, but I mean, like they're not creating characters. You know what I mean? Like these are basically just like in some cases they're just moods. You know what I mean? Like I think they're meant to represent. Each individual character is almost an allegory for something. I think that's a.
Wow. I mean, I don't know. I thought that they were. I thought that perhaps Kiefer Sutherland was doing a good job of kind of, appearing concerned, but putting on the face for the family. So I mean,
Kiefer out of all of them, I think he seemed confused. Like I think he seemed less to buy into what was going on than the others, because it's hard for an actor to do. Like it's hard, especially for these supporting roles, because they're not playing too much. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's a challenge for actors to get into this sort of like art film mentality. J-Money, you look confused what I was saying, so I assume you disagree.
I disagree in the sense that I feel like you're saying that that they didn't form characters. I mean, I feel like they definitely did.
I said three-dimensional characters, and I don't think that they're meant to. Like I don't think they're representative of like three-dimensional, well-drawn people in the way that we normally see them. I think that they're like each character is meant to represent like an idea. Like in a true European art film kind of way.
I guess I would say the Skarsgårds to me probably fall into that category the strongest, but I feel like John Hurt
Kiefer too. I mean, Kiefer and also Charlotte Rampling. We love her. Obviously, she's capable of so much more. But I mean, like she got to play like one emotion. You know what I mean? Like and inexplicable to some degree.
Yeah, but I think there's a difference between being well-rounded and being one note. I mean, I think that these were characters that we weren't obviously seeing any kind of growth or change in their portrayal, but at the same time there was a lot about them that unfolded throughout the scenes that they were in. I don't feel like that they were caricatures. I feel like they were just characters that were singular because we're seeing them within a very limited time frame.
No, I mean I almost think that they're at least aside from the sisters they are caricatures, but almost intentionally so. Like it's something that almost works for the movie. This is not necessarily a quibble. It's just something that I'm noticing. Like I do think that I would almost qualify that they're caricatures, but not in like the silly sense that the word normally connotes. I would suggest that they're meant to represent something. You know what I mean? Like they're almost like part of the mise en scène in that way. But might as well be like a symbol, like an object that's symbolic of something. Like I think each of these supporting characters are symbolic of something, and how do they relate to the two sisters?
Well, I think that we're seeing the motivation for the sisters in their performances one way or the other. I see what you're saying, and I guess I kind of agree, but I also kind of disagree a little bit at least. So
I don't know if I don't know if it's worth moving on or if we want to unpack this more because it's interesting.
No, let's move on. It's fine. I mean, it's not at the end of the day. I think that we both feel like the end result is the same one way or the other.
Yeah, David. I mean, do you have any comment about anything I just said?
No, I mean, I thought, your point about Rampling being kind of one-dimensional is definitely true, but I thought she did it so well. I don't know. I liked it.
And I guess the point is it's not a detractor for me from the movie, and I mean, like, and that brings us to Kirsten Dunst and Charlotte Rampling, who I'm also gonna argue that they're certainly got more going on to them than the other two, but I would also argue that they're not well-rounded and again not meant to be. They're fuller than the other two, but I mean, like, again, I feel like there's an idea at work here that the director's trying to achieve in a abstract kind of a way, and so Kirsten Dunst, by the way, won Best Actress at Cannes. I think it was the LA Film Critics Award for Best Actress in 2011. So she did not get an Oscar nomination, but she was in the mix. So point being that I do think that in spite of that, I don't think that this is screen acting in the traditional sense that it's meant to. I don't think that these are three-dimensional characters, and so I think it's a challenge for an actor, but I don't necessarily. It's not the same kind of acting because you're not playing a character. You're playing a mood almost. It's like, and these are paintings like this is like Cubist kind of stuff here, like or Mondrian or something like that. That it's about the idea, the overarching idea that everyone's building towards. So that's why I think it's great direction, Davey. So anyway, by bringing Kirsten Dunst into this mix, am I making my point any clearer, or am I just muddling the waters further?
Well, I think we're diverging more and more on this point with Kirsten Dunst. I mean, I guess let me ask you this: are you saying that you don't feel like the performances were realistic in a sense?
Absolutely not. And again, I mean, like, they weren't meant to be. Like, I don't think that was the purpose.
Okay, then we definitely strongly disagree about that one.
Well, I mean, like, maybe we disagree about how we define realistic, but I don't think that I mean, like, I feel like I'm quibbling on this movie, but I feel like I'm not making my point clear here. I mean, like, I don't know how to make it any clearer, though. I don't think that they're three-dimensional, and I don't think they're meant to be, and I think it's okay. It works for the movie because what the movie's is supposed to be about.
Right. I happen to disagree. I think that Kirsten Dunst's performance is like pitch-perfect realism when it comes to some serious depression. I mean, I think that what she did had so much nuance and had so much believability in it. Like, everything about that performance was incredibly genuine to me.
I think that I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I feel like she was just playing that, though. You know what I mean? Like,
well, she was,
and that's what she was meant to be. Like, like she was just playing that part. There wasn't, like, layers to it. And again, not meant to be, because the movie is ultimately, to me, like a very evocative movie about depression.
I feel like there was definitely layers to her depression and her sadness, but also there was layers to her personality in the sense that you saw her bounce around with her own struggles, and also there was a sense of magical realism to her that was never quite defined. I mean, I think there were a lot of different subtle things that were happening with that character that wasn't. I mean, I understand what you're saying.
I mean, like, I guess my point is that you can see that this is not like a character that would fit in a regular, like, drama, like whether it be like Spotlight, something like. Yeah, I guess Spotlight's a good example because that's sort of like uber realistic, uber naturalistic. Like, I don't think that this character fits there. She's meant to represent something. She's not. It's not like, it's not meant to be a layered character. I feel like she's meant to represent this depression. You know what I mean?
We totally disagree on this one, but that's okay.
Do we?
Yeah, we do.
Because I don't disagree with anything you said. But you're disagreeing with anything.
I understand. I feel like that she would fit in a movie with Spotlight. Fine. Honestly, I think that she's doing a performance that's much more layered.
But I mean, like, I'm not arguing that she's bad. I don't think she's bad. I think she's doing what was required of her.
No, I get that. I get that. I just think that she is much more realistic and I guess layered than you feel like she is.
Well, I mean, I don't think that she is. I don't think she's supposed to be. Like, I don't think that was wanted. I don't think that was what he wanted of her. You know what I mean? Like, I thought she was, and I think, like I said, I think she acquitted herself extremely well. And I guess Davey disagreed. Davey is more on your side, I guess, because I feel like, I feel like this is like abstract art, and I feel like they are almost like some David Lynch movies. And I feel like I'm in a David Lynch movie right now with his eye patch. They're representative of something.
I guess I don't feel like this is such an abstract art movie. I feel like it's definitely magical realism to some degree, but I guess I don't feel like it's necessarily abstract. Like, Lynch movies to me are much more abstract than this was. No?
Well, I mean, I think this movie had a higher goal. I think this movie really wanted to. Davey, before I get on, what do you think this movie is about?
Me?
I just kind of looked at it as a kind of an end of the world and craziness. I mean, literally mental health situation. I didn't glean anything deeper than that, but I did think it was, I thought it was quite an amazing movie, but
Oh, they went from good to amazing now. All right, so I want to unpack the themes and stuff, but tell me what your quibble was before we run out of time.
Yeah, thank you. So it's a lot of the camera, the edits, the quick bouncing around during conversations. Starting in, I don't mind when someone kind of like changes the focus really quick, but I like it when it's kind of a storytelling device and not just a stylistic, sort of obnoxious habit. I thought he was doing that a lot just for no reason. I couldn't derive any sort of storytelling tool being utilized there. So there, and then there would be times when I would be like, can I just see the conversation? Can you just hold the camera still so that I can see both people? And it would happen briefly, and the shot would be amazing, and then it would go away like instantly.
Now, but you've seen his other work, right? Like that's the style.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I think this movie is about something bigger, and I mean, like, I gotta think J Money's on board with me about this. I don't think it's about the end of the world at all. I think it's about depression, and I think it like in a very and like everything is pointing towards that. I think that and it's evocative in that way, and I think the end of the world is symbolic of how depressed people feel. Because I feel like they do feel like the world's going to end, in an abstract sort of way. The name of the planet obviously like lends itself to that, but I mean like how it hangs over the whole movie is sort of how people with depression, like they feel like they're constantly walking under a cloud, and how it tends to spread to your family members too. I think that the whole first half of the movie is. It's interesting in that sense. The hopelessness, the feeling of hopelessness when you've got this planet coming for you, potentially going to collide. Like that feeling of hopelessness, I think, and also the isolation. Like I don't think it's any accident that they live on this, massive place with this massive golf course that is so far remote from anywhere else that anywhere is. I think that's important. Also, the sound design, which I wanted to talk more about, and we've run out of time. But I mean, like the way that the sound design, was very spare. You only heard like there was no like atmospheric noise or anything like that. There was very little of that. And like there were times when the sound just went out altogether, in a very purposeful way. And all this, I think, and this is part of the performance thing that we spent too much time on. But I think it's all leading to this overarching concept about depression, and I think you at least agree with me about, or I mean, like I get the sense anyway, J Money, that you had a similar assessment, at least on the basic scale.
Yeah, I mean, this movie to me is about an existential crisis, and it kind of manifests itself with Kirsten Dunst's clinical depression, but we also get a chance to peek into how terrible her sister's life is, kind of, how terrible their family life is, and just in general. And ultimately, it's about these two bodies that are kind of colliding, and the end result of that in a lot of ways. Look, there's some very obvious imagery we're talking about here, like naming the planet Melancholia, pretty on the nose for this movie, and there certainly is a lot of symbolism, and I absolutely agree with that idea. So there's a lot of things that we definitely agree about here, JB.
I really like the movie. I recommended it, and it sounds like you like it a lot too. So I'm sorry that but I mean, like that's part of when I mean, like you don't even think it's that abstract a movie, and I do. So maybe like part of the reason why I love it, I think, is because it's so abstract. And I think as opposed to Under the Skin, which is also somewhat abstract and didn't work for me the way that this one does. And obviously, the planet might be on the nose. I get that, but a lot of people miss the whole depression thing, or
yeah.
And so maybe it's not as on the nose as you would have thought.
Well, it's funny because if you read the reviews, if you read people's just general reviews online, half the people thought that this was a movie like about the end of the world, like Deep Impact, and the other half are like, no, that has nothing really to do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very divisive movie. Like half the people got it, and half the people apparently did not somehow.
Like I don't think it's a sci-fi movie.
No, I mean, look, I understand why Davy Joe went that direction because it certainly is an overtone to this movie in general, but I don't think I could define it as sci-fi.
Well, I mean, I just think it's about. I think it's like a very cinematic, and I do think it's abstract the way that they like deal with this depression, and evocative. Evocative, I think, is the best word for it.
It's a sci-fi premise. I don't know that that's really arguable, but
it's a sci-fi background.
Yeah,
but
backdrop
also,
is the word I used.
Okay. backdrop premise.
Well, because
I mean, it's about another planet slamming into Earth.
But I mean, like, my point is, it's not. It's not really about.
It's not actually about that.
No,
yeah.
I mean, I don't think. I don't think the movie is as veiled as maybe. I mean, it's clearly about depression. The planet is called Melancholia. I mean, like, it's not.
Right.
You're not hiding the ball here. It's pretty. It's pretty upfront.
But because the planet is called Melancholia, that's why it's not so much about the planet. I mean, that's it's
Sure.
part of the supporting backdrop to the.
Well, I mean, I think the planet is just as much of a symbol as the golf course, and quite frankly, the performances, and we disagree on that point. But so anyway, we really have to go. It is 1 minute to 6 o'clock Pacific, and so our classic's gonna be late. Our classic is called John and Belinda, and that's coming up shortly. Next indie, what is my little hint for next indie? Oh, our next indie is an Arabic lesbian film. What? So that's coming up next time on the Indie Spotlight. But in the meantime, we're gonna lose our voice and talk about Johnny Belinda here behind me, eye patch and all. So anyway, we will see you as soon as we possibly can. We're obviously gonna be late. It's 6 o'clock now. See you very shortly. Johnny Belinda coming up.